All right, so today we are simplifying fractions. Okay, guys, really what that means is we're taking a fraction and we're reducing. Okay, reducing means to get smaller. Okay, so we're reducing that fraction until we can't anymore. Now, one thing I want to point out, we are still working with equivalent fractions. Okay, so this is much like what we did yesterday when we did equivalent fractions. It's just that since we are reducing them, that means that we're going to be dividing. Okay, there's no multiplying because we're not creating larger equivalent fractions. We're creating smaller equivalent fractions. Okay, so for instance, if I have 4/8, okay, I know yesterday I could multiply by a number and I could get an equivalent fraction, okay? But aren't these numbers larger than these numbers? Yes, okay? So we don't want to be going up today. We want to be going down. Now, they are still all equivalent, okay? We're not changing values. We're not changing amounts, okay? We are just changing the name. So if I have 4/8 today, I want to make that an equivalent fraction that is less than 4 and less than 8, okay? So that means I have to divide. Well, in that case, I have to find numbers in common for both 4 and 8. Factors in common for 4 and 8. Well, I know that the factors of 4 are 1 times 4 and 2 times itself. Okay, so that's 1, 2, and 4. I know the factors of 8, 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. So I could write those in this order from least to greatest. Okay, well, that means that they both have 1 as a factor. They both have 2 as a factor. And they both have 4 as a factor. Okay, so their common factors are 1, 2, and 4. What we're looking for today is we want that GCF, the greatest common factor. Okay, so this is the highest one they have in common. So the greatest common factor for these two numbers is 4. Okay, so that means that I'll do it over here. I can simplify this by dividing by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So the simplest fraction here, the simplifying, is 1/2. Okay, I could, because they also have 2 as a common factor, I could divide by 2. 4 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2. But here's the problem. If I divide by 2, which is a common factor, I get 2/4. That is not the simplest fraction because this 1/2 is. So if I get this 2/4, I would then have to divide by 2 again to get my 1/2. So if I divide by a common factor, I can get to my answer. Okay? But if I divide by the greatest common factor, I usually only have to divide once. Okay, so this is what I was talking about the other day when we did our vocabulary. If you find your greatest common factor, then usually you're simplifying, you only have to divide once. Okay? Okay, so let's try another one. This time I have 16 30-seconds. I know that sounds weird to say it like that, but that's how you say it, 16/32. So step 1, find the factors. Okay, so I'm going to find my factors of 16. Remember that that factors are numbers you multiply to get another number. So I know that I have 1 times 16. I also have 2 times 8. And I have 4 times 4, which makes 16. I like to write them in order from least to greatest. Okay, so those are the factors of 16. Now I find the factors of 32. Okay, this is where knowing your multiplication facts is going to really help you. And if you don't know your multiplication facts, then you need to have a multiplication chart in front of you. So I know that 1 times 32 is 32. Now this one won't be, this is not on a multiplication chart, and 2 times 16 is also not on a multiplication chart. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. Okay. 3 doesn't work because I would either need 30 or 33, so that doesn't have a relationship. But 4 does. 4 times 8. 5 doesn't work. 6 doesn't work. 7 doesn't work, but 8 is there. So I'm going to write these in order up here. So that's a 1, a 2, a 4, a 8, a 16, and a 32. Okay, so we found the factors of each of them. Now we find the common factors. Okay, well, that would be 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. Okay, so I could divide both of those numbers by all 4 of these factors. And then lastly, the greatest common factor. So I can see 16 is the biggest one here. Okay, so since 16 is the biggest, I'm going to divide both of these by 16. Well, 16 divided by 16 is 1, and 32 divided by 16, I see it down here, is 2. So this is 1/2. Okay, and I can just double check that. Is 16 half of 32? Yes, it is. Okay, now if you did not go through this step, okay, if you did not find all of these factors, I'm going to show you that you can still find your answer. It just might take a few more steps. So if I'm looking at 16/32, I can say to myself, you know what? I know they're both divisible by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 32 divided by 2 is 16. Well, these are still not simplest form because I know that I can still divide both of them by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then I know that I still can divide again because both of those numbers are divisible by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. And there's my answer. Okay, so I can still get to my answer. Either I find my GCF and divide once, or I can start dividing by what I know and then just keep dividing after that. Okay, either strategy will get you to your answer. You just have to decide which one. And sometimes it just depends on what the numbers are. Sometimes the fraction that you're given is friendly enough that you're like, oh yeah, I know that fact right off the top of my head. I don't have to go through all this. And then you might just want to start dividing. Okay. Sometimes you do need to do the common factor strategy because you just don't know where to start. So it really just depends on the fraction. Let me give you an example of that. If I have 33/77, what do you notice right off the top? I noticed that I know both of these numbers can be divided by 11. Okay. And so because of that, I'm just going to go ahead and start dividing by 11. I could do my greatest common factor strategy, but I already know they have something in common, so I'm going to divide. So 33 divided by 11 is 3. 77 divided by 11 is 7. Okay. Now, I have to double check and I have to make sure that this is simplest form. Okay. There's a couple of ways that I do that. Number one, I'm looking to see if I have prime numbers. Okay. Now, it's been a while since we talked about prime numbers. Remember that prime numbers have only one and itself as factors. Okay, so only one factor pair. That's a prime number. If you have a prime number for your numerator and your denominator, then you know for sure that you are done and you do not have to simplify anymore. Okay, so I know that 3 is prime because I can only do 1 times 3 to get 3. So this is prime. Same thing for 7. I can only do 1 times 7, so that is also prime. If I have 2 prime numbers, I'm done, and this is my simplest form. Okay? If I have 1 prime number and the other is composite, okay, so 1 prime and 1 composite, then I have to see, does one fit into the other? So for instance, if I have 3 knights, I know that 3 is prime, but 9 is composite. Okay, can 3 go into 9? Yes, it can. So I can divide both of these by 3 again. Okay, so definitely for sure, if they're both prime, you're done. If one is prime and the other is composite, you see, can one fit into the other, and then you can still divide. Okay. Now with composite, you really just have to see, what the common factors are. There's no quick trick for that one. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to talk about 30/40ths. Okay. Well, you guys know that I really like to give you tips and tricks about zeros, right? Okay, so remember when we were dividing, okay, and we had something like 100 divided by 20. Okay, remember I taught you that you can cross off 1 0 from the dividend and 1 from the divisor, and you can match them up and get rid of them, right? And so that then you have a much simpler problem to deal with. Well, also, fractions are division symbols. Okay, I know we don't think of them like that, but this fraction bar is a division symbol. Okay, because if I write a fraction bar and instead of numbers, I put a dot, what do I have? I have the division symbol. Okay, a fraction is a division problem. Every single fraction is division. Okay, I know I probably just blew your mind with that, but it's true. So if I write this like that, 30 divided by 40, okay, this is another way of saying 30 divided by 40. 30/40ths, 30 divided by 40. Well, can I match up some zeros and get rid of them? Absolutely, and then I'm left with 3 divided by 4, right? So over here, I can do this, and now I have 3/4. Okay, can I simplify 3/4 anymore? Well, 3 is prime, and 4 is composite. Okay, if I have a prime and a composite, I look to see, does 3 go evenly into 4? No, it does not. So 3/4 is simplest form. Okay? So look for those zeros to see if you can match them up and get rid of them. All right, let me get a little bit of room here and we'll do one last one together. Okay, so this time we're going to do 16/20. Okay, well, right off the top of my head, I say to myself, you know, I know that 16 and 20 can both be divided by 4 because I know my 4 times tables. So I'm going to try and see what happens. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So now I have to see if this is simplest form. 4 is composite and 5 is prime. Does 4 fit into 5 evenly? No. Does 5 fit into 4 evenly? No. So that means 4/5 is simplest form.